Let me ask you a question. What if the very way you've always measured success, the metrics you use to promote, to reward, to celebrate, is actually the one thing holding your company back? We've all been taught to worship at the altar of performance, but today, we're going to challenge that.
So let's just start with a really hard question. And I want you to be honest with yourself. Is your number one salesperson, your most brilliant engineer, quietly poisoning your culture from the inside?
Okay, let's dive into this. To really get to the heart of the issue, we have to separate two critical metrics. The first, on the vertical axis here, is performance. That's the easy one. Your technical skill, your execution. It's what most of us measure. The second, though, is trust. That's your character, your reliability, your integrity. You know, one of the highest performing organizations on the planet, the Navy SEALs, learned that you have to evaluate both, because focusing only on performance creates a massive and, frankly, a dangerous blind spot at the very heart of modern business.
So here's our game plan for the next few minutes. We'll start with the performance paradox, then we'll name the toxic star in your ranks. After that, we'll look at the massive trust dividend, lay out a practical trust blueprint, and finally, lock in your new North Star for leadership.
So, what is this paradox? It's actually incredibly simple. While most companies are completely obsessed with performance, the most elite teams on Earth have learned a hard lesson. Long-term success, even survival, depends almost entirely on that other metric, trust.
And this quote just brilliantly illustrates what the SEALs really mean by trust. See, it's not about being pleasant or likable, it's about deep foundational character. The SEALs learned that a high performer with low trust is a genuine danger to the team. They would rather have a medium performer with high trust every single time, no question.
Which brings us to our first insight, and a critical task for any leader: identifying the single most dangerous person in your organization.
We call them the toxic star. You know this person. They absolutely crush their numbers. They deliver their projects, but they leave a trail of broken relationships and suspicion behind them. They are a cultural liability disguised as a performance asset. And you know, the ironic part is, they're not even hard to find. Just ask any team, who's the asshole? They will all point to the exact same person.
Now, if the cultural argument isn't quite enough for you, let's talk about money. This is where we stop treating trust like some vague soft skill and start treating it as what it really is: a hard asset with a clear and undeniable financial return.
As Stephen M. Covey puts it, trust isn't some abstract ideal. It's a pragmatic, measurable asset that directly drives economic outcomes. So the key here is this: building trust isn't just good for morale, it is fantastic for your balance sheet.
And the data, well, it's staggering. One major study found that the return to shareholders in high-trust organizations is triple that of low-trust organizations. I mean, just think about that. 3 times the return, driven by this one variable.
And it doesn't stop there. Further research shows that trusted companies outperform their peers by up to 400%. Let's be very clear, this is not a rounding error. This is a massive competitive advantage. Trust is, quite literally, a performance multiplier.
So if trust is that valuable, the obvious question is, how do we build it? Well, the good news is it's not an accident. There is a systematic process, a blueprint that any leader can follow to cultivate trust in themselves and in their teams.
And Stephen M. Covey provides us with a really clear blueprint with his 4 cores of credibility. It starts with integrity, simply doing what you say you will do. Then comes intent. Is your motive to serve others or just yourself? Next, you have capabilities. Are your skills relevant to the challenges you're facing? And finally, results. Your track record of actually delivering. These aren't just separate traits. They're an interconnected system for building deep, authentic credibility. Okay, so let's bring all this together. When you accept the danger of the toxic star and you understand the economic power of the trust dividend, it forces you to adopt a new, timeless principle for how you lead.
Here is your first one-liner for the boardroom. Write this down. Performance wins quarters, trust wins decades. That is the strategic choice that every leader has to make. Are you playing for short-term gains at the cost of your culture, or are you building an enduring organization on a foundation of trust?
And here is your second one, and this one's a more direct mandate. Stop promoting your toxic stars, start cultivating your cultural backbones, those quiet, high-trust individuals who may not be at the top of the leaderboard, but who make every single person around them better. So if this resonates with you, take one step today. Identify the cultural backbones on your team and recognize them. Share this principle with your leadership. This choice doesn't just shape your org chart, It shapes your entire culture. Act now. Lead smarter.